Hi, everyone. I'm Danny Parra with the American Red Cross. As a member of the communications team here at the Red Cross, I get all kinds of questions all the time about blood donation. So I'm very lucky to be able to sit down with some of our medical experts to find those answers to those questions. Joining me today is Dr. Courtney Lawrence, Division Chief Medical Officer here at the American Red Cross. And Dr. Lawrence, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Danny.
All right, so Dr. Lawrence, let's talk about blood types. What are blood types and where do they come from?
Great question, Danny. So our blood types come from our DNA. They're inherited. We're born with our blood types. So when we think about our blood, there's a few things we need to remember. Our blood's made up of our red blood cells. They're the cells that carry oxygen as energy to all of our tissues. There's our white blood cells. Those are the cells that help us fight infections. There's our platelets. Those are the types of cells that basically help manage our blood vessel linings and help keep us from having bleeding complications. There's our plasma. That's the liquid portion of our blood. So those are all of the different types of cells that make up our blood. But also, when we get down to the nitty-gritty of it, it's important to know that our red blood cells can look different from person to person. And there are four major categories of blood groups, the ABO types. And what that refers to are antigens. Those are essentially proteins and sugars that are coded on our red blood cells. And so you can be born with type A, where you have those A antigens on your red cell. You can be blood type B, where you have the B antigens on those red blood cells. You can be blood type O, which means you don't have either A or B antigens on your red blood cells. Or you can be type AB, where you have both A and B antigens on your red blood cells. There's also many other different proteins that code our red blood cells. Those are the most important, in addition to one that's commonly called Rh factor or the D antigen. So if you're told, hey, you're type O negative, that negative means that you do not have that D antigen or Rh factor on your red blood cells. Whereas if you're AB positive, in addition to having the A and the B antigens on your red cells, you also have this Rh factor or D antigen present on your red blood cells. And so when we're thinking about if blood from one donor is compatible for a patient who needs blood, we rely on knowing those ABO and RHD blood types.
I'm going to throw a few more letters at you right now. What is CMV? What does that stand for?
So CMV stands for cytomegalovirus, and big fancy term, but it's actually an extremely common virus that usually, if it causes any symptoms in someone, they're very minor symptoms, much like the common cold. And it's so common that by the age of 5 years, 1 in 3 children will have been exposed and been infected with CMV. And when we move to the adult population in America, anywhere, depending on where you live, 50% to up to 85% of adults have been exposed or infected with CMV at some point in their past.
All right, so this is a shameful admission, but I had never heard of CMV until right now. But I had no idea that it was so common either. So glad you were able to take us through all that. So why does the Red Cross want donors with CMV negative blood?
So it's not a shameful admission, Danny, because really for most healthy individuals, they won't have to worry about CMV because even if they are exposed or infected, the symptoms are so mild that it won't cause a health problem for them. But what we do need to worry about are people who do not have a good immune system. That can include patients who recently had a bone marrow transplant. That can include premature babies who have not developed their full immune system yet. And that can include pregnant individuals because they have a developing fetus or baby that they need to be concerned about getting their CMV infection from their parent. And so for those patient populations, we really want to avoid them being exposed to CMV if we can help it. The good news is that we have multiple ways to protect those patients and the blood supply for those patients. One example of how we do that is by removing white blood cells from blood products. And the fancy term for that is leukoreduction. And so all blood products, with the exception of granulocytes, which are a type of white blood cell that we transfuse as a blood product, all other blood types, red blood cells, platelets, plasma, those products are all leukoreduced. So they don't have very many white blood cells in them. And we think that for most patients, those blood products are safe, even if the donor previously had CMV.
Right. So A, B, O, RH, CMV. Dr. Lawrence, thank you for guiding us through the blood donation alphabet. If you have more questions about blood types, CMV, RH types, or any questions, I want to learn more information about blood donation, the place to go is redcrossblood.org. Dr. Lawrence, thanks so much.
Thank you, Danny. It's been a delight talking with you today.